Oh, we got the makings of a scuttled judicial appointment by Donald Trump and Emil Bove for the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. We got everything we want. We got a 27-page single-space whistleblower report and the willingness to testify against Mr. Bove, saying that he told all the litigators in the litigation section of the Department of Justice to go tell federal judges to go F off and don't tell them the truth and don't abide by their orders related to Donald Trump's immigration and removal policies. There's other potential whistleblowers and witnesses against Emil Bove as the Democrats, led by Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, kind of get it together, lean into this issue, and make sure that somebody like Emil Bove doesn't wear a black robe. And Senator Cory Booker briefs our audience as he's being interviewed with Court Accountability Action's Lisa Graves and Alex Aronson. And here's the interview.
With the federal courts, perhaps with the exception of the United States Supreme Court, which has ruled consistently for Donald Trump, but with the federal court standing as seemingly one of the last remaining institutional guardrails against autocracy in America, it is perhaps no surprise that MAGA and Donald Trump and his allies have turned their ire, have turned their tactics of retribution, suppression, and intimidation to the federal courts themselves. They've done this through open threats, through claims that lower court judges are attempting a coup against the administration, aggrandizing their judicial power. They have defied lower court orders, and they have openly claimed their ability to declare unilaterally the meaning of the constitutional meaning, the meaning of the Constitution, whether or not the courts agree with their interpretations. One deeply disturbing development we've seen along these lines is an effort by Donald Trump to name judges, as he begins to now appoint judges in his second term, who are not just devoted to the conservative ideology that we saw be the brand of so many of the judges confirmed with the direction of Leonard Leo's and the Federalist Society's support during the first Trump administration, but who are in fact loyalists to him personally. And we've seen this most evidently in the selection of Emil Bove, Trump's personal lawyer, to a life-tenured position on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, a very important court, a seat out of New Jersey. And to discuss this very important confirmation and the crisis, the constitutional crisis that is engulfing our country with this conflict between this president and our judiciary, we are so honored and thrilled to have here with us on Midas Touch Legal AF. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. One of the senators in the thick of this action who is leading the charge to stop this abuse of government power, the assault on the rule of law, the great senator from the state of New Jersey, the equally great state of New Jersey, Cory Booker, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Booker, thank you for joining my partner Lisa Graves and me here on Midas Touch Legal AF and for all your work. Thanks for taking the time.
I'm really psyched to be in conversation with you all. It's just really exciting for me, and I'm grateful that you guys not only hosted me on this platform, that you two are legal nerds par excellence. So that makes me very happy.
Legal politics nerds, moreover.
Legal politics nerds, which makes you a very special breed of legal nerds.
Yeah. We've got our Thursday mornings cleared off for watching markups. And there's a big one happening this Thursday as the committee, after holding over last week's markup, is going to finally debate this confirmation, which is coming under a cloud of controversy. Of course, Bove has been described as Trump's henchman, even by lawyers on the right. He's been involved in all sorts of these very controversial and deeply disturbing events, the dismissal of corruption charges against Eric Adams, the retribution pursued against prosecutors and investigators connected to January 6th. But now a whistleblower has come forward to describe how Bove was central in directing the administration to defy court orders in the Abrego Garcia case, not to send Abrego Garcia to El Salvador. Can you tell us why this confirmation, should it occur, would be so troubling, why it's something of great concern for Americans across the country, and why these whistleblower allegations change?
I mean, we're already seeing what I consider just a violation of the Constitution, in the sense that it was set up to have a series of checks and balances. You have three independent branches of government, co-equal branches, that are supposed to not allow power to concentrate in a way that our founders didn't want in the hands of the executive especially. We are not a nation of kings. we're a constitutional democracy where there should be checks and balances. We've already seen the Senate and the legislative branch really abdicate their responsibility to check the executive. And we saw that with the Signalgate controversy. You literally have high government officials in charge of our national security sending out battle plans, and there was not one hearing in the Senate, not one investigation. We're not doing our oversight, and we're sort of laying down a lot of our powers, including the power of the purse, as we saw with a 6-month continuing resolution that wasn't done in a bipartisan way of members of Congress. It was just what Donald Trump wanted. And so this is problematic. Now, with President Trump consistently attacking the judiciary when it doesn't do what he wants them to do or tells them to do, we now see him wanting to get rid of a check and balance on the judiciary. And the way he is doing that is through his ability to put people on the court that don't reflect a certain judicial philosophy. I would obviously disagree with conservative judicial philosophies, but are simply ones that will follow his orders. And this is what he said on Truth Social about Bove. He said, this is a person that will do, quote, anything necessary, end quote, to support his MAGA agenda. He's putting people on that are not coming out of a certain sort of judicial thought, area of judicial thought. They are just loyalists who are proven loyalists. And in this case, what Bove has done and what this whistleblower has pointed out to is he has no respect for the rule of law whatsoever. He is a Donald Trump acolyte, or someone who will just follow what Donald Trump says he'll do. And in the worst way, when there were a potential, as you said, with the Abrego Garcia case, is that he just said to people, excuse my language, but fuck the rule of law is what he said, quote unquote.
Those are his words.
Those were his words. Yeah, not my words. For emphasis, that is exactly what he said, literally. And so, someone who does not have a respect for the rule of law, who is ordering people in the executive branch to defy court orders, should not be sitting. It should be disqualifying. He should not be sitting on the court in this case. And that is something that, again, my committee should be investigating. When there's a whistleblower who makes these accusations, and then by bringing emails and text messages has receipts to show that this happened, the committee should be investigating these very damning charges.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Senator. And I just want to thank you for coming on the show with us and also for your leadership on these issues. And I just have to pause and say how much I appreciated that you broke Strom Thurmond's record for the filibuster that stood for far too long, and your enormous commitment to civil rights and equality and these values, which is why one of the reasons why we're so grateful to have you come on to talk about this effort to install Emil Bove onto the Third Circuit. It strikes me that one of the most fundamental components of that separation of powers, of those independent checks that you mentioned that are supposed to be hardwired into our Constitution, is that judges are supposed to be independent. In fact, the U.S. Code, the Code of Conduct for U.S. judges, talks about how indispensable an honorable and independent judiciary is to justice in American society. It talks about how people who are judges should hold themselves to the highest standards of conduct, that they should have integrity. And yet we have this appointment of someone whose only real qualification is, as you said, this notion that he will do whatever Trump wants, and that he, even in recent months, not in some younger day, not in some college dorm room, said, according to the whistleblower, F the court, F the orders, do not follow what the court has ordered. This very same federal court system that he is seeking to get himself appointed to, confirmed to a potential lifetime position on that court. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about what's happening with the Senate Judiciary Committee. Obviously, we know the playbook that the chairman has followed before with the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh, as Alex mentioned. But is there anything that members could do this Thursday to avoid Emil Bove going forward, or to try to push for just common sense common sense investigation of these very serious allegations by this whistleblower that Bove, during his nomination hearing, suggested at one point he just couldn't recall saying it.
Yes. Well, I first want to just lay out that stark point that you made. You have a 9-0 Supreme Court decision that says basically that Abrego Garcia should be brought back to the United States for his due process rights, which is a demonstration that even 3 Donald Trump appointed judges are not willing to violate their own values, their own ideals in service of the president. That is a system working as it should. He put 3 people on the court. He may not agree with them all the time. They are following their judicial philosophy. And now you have Bove, in the other circumstance, not doing what people in the Justice Department should do, but instead saying, F the court. We're going to fall in line with Donald Trump. That is a stark contrast. And his evidence, that behavior he's evidencing, should not become a judge, because then we are going to allow Donald Trump, like he's doing through bullying and threats. He did that this past week with, you don't pass my so-called rescissions package, I will run primaries against you. He's trying to bully the legislative branch into submission. Now he's trying to take over the judicial branch, not by putting people up there who have a certain philosophy, but by putting people there who will fall in line no matter what with him. So that's the starkness. Now, the process, which you're asking about, well, what does the Judiciary Committee do? Well, you're right. I've seen how this has happened already. I saw it with Kavanaugh, where there was legitimate concerns brought forward about him that were not investigated. For the highest court in the land, for a lifetime appointment, the FBI, under instruction of the Trump administration, and the committee decided not to investigate these legitimate, concerning allegations. And so here we have another situation where I don't have the greatest expectation on this Thursday coming up in a few days, this Thursday hearing, that they will decide to say, hey, let's bring in this very credible whistleblower, who the whistleblower themselves is not a Democrat. This is somebody who has a long history of working even in the Trump administration. But instead of doing that, we're going to go moving forward. But I will tell you, we have seen us be able to stop people in the first Trump administration getting Republicans to join us, and even with here in the District of Columbia stopping a nomination as well. So I'm telling you that we want to continue to bring these issues to light, have conversations in the media like we're having here, to hopefully call to the conscience, perhaps not of Donald Trump and the executive, but call to the conscience of some of my Republican colleagues.
Yeah, I'd love to unpack this a little bit more. I worked on the Kavanaugh confirmation. We were talking about this before we started taping, and even before the FBI non-investigation into all those credible allegations of sexual assault by the now justice, you were at the tip of the spear of the fight to get the Trump administration to produce responsive documents that we knew were in the responsive document set that they would not produce without claiming privilege over them. And we saw this maneuver again on display at the very beginning of Bove's hearing, where Senator Grassley, the chair of the committee, announced that they would not be trying to pierce assertions of deliberative process privilege or attorney-client privilege or executive privilege. To my reading of the situation right now, we've got a whistleblower who says one thing, we've got Emil Bove who denies that, and then subsequently we've got whistleblower evidence, text message evidence that corroborates the whistleblower's version of accounts. Has there been any effort by committee Republicans to actually get documents that might help us see who's telling the truth here? Are they allowing the administration or Bove himself to rest on privilege? Have there been any developments since that exchange at the hearing? And if so, what are they? If not, has he had to claim or assert privilege in any sense at all? And it strikes me that it falls of a piece. It becomes sort of part and parcel of this broader accession of congressional power that you mentioned with the power of the purse, right? If they're handing over Congress's core power of advice and consent to get to the bottom of these vetting questions, seems like it's handing over another very important congressional power on the people's behalf.
I think you described it as it is the case, that we are now in a situation where the Democrats are asking with a single voice, asking the chairman to investigate these. This is a letter, I think either went out yesterday or is going out today, really asserting that this is a violation or an abdication of our powers and responsibilities if we do not have a formal hearing with the whistleblower. But again, as you said, Grassley, this is pattern and practice for him of him not doing that. And that is highly problematic when it comes to the role that we are going to play. And we know from a different time in the United States Senate that senators saw themselves not as partisans when it comes to their president. They took their roles and responsibilities very, very seriously, independent of who the president might be, whether they're their party or not. They would make sure that we held hearings when some kind of credible allegations are made like this. And again, allegations not coming from a Democrat, allegations not coming from a political partisan, allegations coming from someone who has worked in the Trump administration in the past, who has a good reputation, who has a lot of respect, and who's taken a big risk to themselves and their careers to come forward and share this information.
Well, that's right. And, you know, I'm certainly a critic of Senator Grassley. I know you're in a different position as a colleague in terms of what you can say and not say, Senator. But, you know, Grassley has asserted in previous administrations that independence. But when it comes to the judges, he has acted in a way that's been complicit, in my personal opinion, in allowing people to get appointed to the bench who are unworthy of those posts. And also, it is just astonishing to see the folding of these Republican members who basically are annihilating, in essence, their own power. Noted conservative legal historian Raul Berger talked about how Congress and the Senate in our constitutional system is not supposed to be relegated to being the office boy to the president, not like the runner for the president. This is a co-equal branch. And so your efforts to really highlight what's at stake and speak the truth and try to move this forward, to try to urge some members of the Republican Party to join Democrats in saying no to someone who just weeks ago was was in essence suggesting that there's no need to follow the courts. That person should not be confirmed by anyone, no matter their party. And so I wonder, I wonder if you could talk just a little bit more about the history of not just the Judiciary Committee's role in these things, but perhaps this particular seat on the Third Circuit.
Yeah, it's painful to talk about the history, which I will in a minute, but I think it is really important that we understand that when we use language like authoritarianism, that's just not empty rhetoric. When a president does not have checks and balances, it erodes the principles upon which our constitutional republic, our democracy stands on. And Jefferson understood that. And he, in many ways, foreshadowed exactly what's happening with Congress right now. He said, when people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears its people, there is liberty. Right now, congressional Republicans fear Donald Trump. Even ones that in the past have shown, yeah, I'll check my president and my party. But no, now we have a president that can unleash a MAGA horde, unleash millions and millions of dollars. I've seen people who have dared to question, like, is Hegseth qualified, suddenly find themselves in a torrent of attacks, threats, and more. Not to mention direct calls that I will run a primary if you don't fall in line. And since Citizens United, frankly, we're in an environment where people can rain ungodly amounts of money down on many of these Republicans. So they're falling in line, even if in previous years or decades, they were the kind of people that would stand up to a Reagan or a Bush and just do what their job was. But right now, they are not. We are seeing a complicit Republican Congress who is ceding their power and authority to the executive, which gives that executive powers that our constitutional framers did not envision. And that kind of power is corrosive and corrupting to our democracy, and it should be laid plain like that. Now, I'm very frustrated because we appointed Adil Mungi to fill this seat under a Democratic president. He's just an extraordinary leader. He's an extraordinary lawyer who happens to also be Muslim and would have been the first Muslim circuit court judge in the history of the United States of America. This extraordinary father, this extraordinarily respected lawyer within the New Jersey bar, then went through the most awful, unjustified attacks by Republicans who first asked him the most outrageous questions. I've never seen in my 13 years here a lawyer, a nominee be asked, did you support 9/11, the terrorist attacks on 9/11? I mean, just to me, bigoted attacks on him. And those shook, I think, some of my colleagues. And then when those attacks on his character, on his honor, were not enough. When they tried to, and they called him anti-Semitic all the way through till the end. They tried to put that label on him through. I listened to Mitch McConnell from the Senate floor say the most disgusting things about him with no substance that had no substance whatsoever. They then decided to say that he supported people who attacked police, which is rich, given now we have a guy who went after those people who prosecuted people who attacked police officers, which is so rich that they then attacked him again with no substance. And unfortunately, some police unions came out and threatened support of some Democratic senators, and we lost the coalition of senators we needed to confirm him. And so that fell, and it fell late in the Biden term, so that we did not have enough time to put another judge up to fill this spot. So this vacancy was created by the most malicious and, in my opinion, noxious lies and smears and attacks on a man of such great character. That's why we're here today, giving them this vacancy that they are now going to try to fill. So this to me is just a painful for as a New Jersey, and it's really painful to see a smear attack work to stop a man of great character, and now being put up somebody who, in the richness of this hypocrisy, who actually was a part of undermining the prosecutions of people who attacked police officers on January 6th.
It's a really sad state of affairs. Senator Booker, I know you got to run. Thank you so much for the time. I wanted to ask you one quick question about a really important piece of legislation that you have introduced in the Senate. It's really critical in response to this spike in threats to judges, a 327% spike in threats to judges since last year, according to one report. Judges are having pizza boxes anonymously delivered to their homes. You know, you personally and your state have direct personal experience dealing with this type of threat and attack. A federal judge in your state, Esther Salas, she and her family were brutally murdered, had family members die, and we were able to work in a bipartisan manner in the Senate with Republicans to advance important judicial safety legislation in the aftermath of that. There are related concerns that this bill addresses around the ability of the courts to enforce their contempt orders if and when the courts do defy, or the administration do defy the courts. This bill would simply move the marshals, the United States Marshals, responsible for judicial protection and contempt enforcement, among a few other roles, from the executive branch back to the judicial branch. Can you tell folks why this is such important legislation and how we can help push it forward? We're thrilled to be
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Look, first and foremost, I just want to say it plain. Political violence is cancerous to a democracy. There's a great book about why democracies die out there, that one of the principal reasons they die is because of a rise of political violence. We also have the incendiary rhetoric of a president who says things like, I hate Democrats, that these judges using language that casts them in the light of being existential threats, that whips people up and I think in many ways is language, as we saw on January 6th, that does incite people to take actions that are unjust and often dangerous, and threats to individuals as well as to the erosion of our democracy and democratic norms and traditions. Political violence is unacceptable in any forms, and we have seen political violence and threats dramatically increase since Trump was first elected in the 2016 election. Threats on judges, threats on congresspeople, threats on state elected leaders, threats that have been both Republican and Democrat. And this should be a chill to every American. And it demands from all of us that we do more to denounce the violence. It especially demands from the president, congresspeople, senators, people in elected office to denounce violence of any sort. And so what I've also been looking at, though, is this is a president that seems to be doing things that could precipitate constitutional crises like we had on January 6th. And one of the quirks we have right now is that the marshals who are in charge of protecting the judiciary branch, the marshals who are in charge of effectuating contempt orders, are not controlled by the judiciary branch. They're controlled by the executive branch. And so that's problematic when you have Donald Trump threatening judges. That's problematic when you have people like Emil Bove who have said that they were willing to screw the judge's orders. What happens when an executive officer violates court orders and is held in contempt? Who then enforces that if the very people that are enforcing it are being controlled by that same executive branch? So this is an urgent need for constitutional clarification, to respect the division, the separation of powers. And it's something that I think is common sense, to put the marshals underneath the very court that they are charged with protecting. Now, again, this is not hyperbole. I have seen one of my Senate colleagues thrown to the ground and arrested. We have had conversations from senators with authorities here within the legislative branch about how senators are more and more afraid, not afraid of just political violence writ large, but of a president who could unjustly target, using federal authority, using executive authority, can unjustly target United States senators. And so we need to start looking at our way of being as a country and stop taking things for granted. Stop taking for granted what we think, a president could never do that. A president would never defy a court. A president would never bully and intimidate an executive, a legislative branch into submission. A president would never violate people's due process rights. A president would never violate people's free speech rights. A president would never attack universities' academic freedoms. A president would never force a law firm to come to heel before him, offer up tribute because of who they chose to represent. We've got to stop assuming things and make sure that we take steps to tighten up our democratic processes. And this is one of those bills that it really is targeting about protecting the judicial branch and giving them authority over those officers who not only protect their safety, but also execute their orders.
Senator Booker, we thank you so much. This is a moment for stark truths and for clear-eyed thinking. We really appreciate your willingness to speak truth to the moment we're living in.
And I want to just interrupt you and say, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We have to have people that, and I joked with you all being nerds, but God bless you and nerd power. As a guy who loves Star Trek, it's most Star Trek obsessed person. Thank you. Thank you. That is amazing. But I say that because nerds save the universe time and time again. And what we need right now in America is more people that will stand up and speak truth to power, stand up and fight, stand up with courage and conviction and consistency, and help to awaken the conscience of others who will stand and fight with us. This is not normal times. We cannot normalize the behavior of this president when he is doing things that threaten our democracy. And Republicans know it. And how do I know that? because some of my colleagues will say things to me in private, but don't have the courage to say them publicly. And so the fact that you all on this platform stand and fight, stand and speak truth, stand and take the time to help people understand what the law is, what the challenges are to our judiciary, what the challenges are to our Constitution is so vital right now. I'm going to stand and fight. And what gives me courage is when I see other people in other sectors understanding what's at stake and being willing to stand and fight with me and with others who are doing the work. So thank you all for what you do.
Thank you so much, Senator. It's an honor to be on with you. And thank you, everyone, for, I've got some tears in my eyes. That was so beautiful and heartfelt, in addition to the Star Trek thing. But thank you so much for coming on. We hope to have you back on soon to continue this conversation, Senator, and best wishes to you in the battles ahead this week. And thank you, Alex, for helping us spearhead this conversation. And thank you all for joining us here on the Midas Touch Network on Legal AF. Stay strong, everyone. Do not give up. We have a lot of fight together to do for the good of our economy.
Prosper, and you look like more like a Star Trek guy, so a Star Wars guy. So I'll say, may the force be with you.
Thanks, Senator.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye now.
Welcome back. You're on Legal AF. 10 new videos a day at the intersection of law and politics, and all we ask for is that you hit the subscribe button. Here, we have no paywall. We have no outside investors. You're it. We're it. Both sides of the camera. This is it. We are vibrating on the same frequency. We ask for your support, and we are humbled by your devotion to this channel. We just crossed the 200 million downloads and views mark, which is a milestone in just 9 months of existence. We really do appreciate everything that you do for us. Take a moment and hit that subscribe button. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.